Okay, good evening. Right, so first we'll concentrate on software quality assurance. So we have a small part to finish for the automation testing, which I will address in a separate session, okay? But today what I want to do first is uh, Java based test automation, and we want to fully finish that subtopic, okay? So that is our first task we want to do. This I will address in a next topic, next class, okay? And this one we will fully finish, including past papers. And it's a bit of technical topic also. And after doing that, we'll move on to e-business past papers also. Other things we can cover in maybe next to tomorrow's class. Right. Java-based test automation. For this topic, UCSC has not given you any note in the University VLE. So therefore, I prepared you a separate note for that. Make sure you download and refer to that note. And also I have shared you the code and some other references, right? Some other references because already they have asked question on this topic. So they have not published the code, published any note, right? Java-based test automation. So, so basically we will, okay, I will first show you the syllabus for that topic. It won't take much time, but we need to do a bit of, right? No content is given, okay? But the syllabus is there, right? TestNG, basically the reference is TestNG website, right? Reference 6 is basically the TestNG documentation. This link doesn't work, but don't worry, just go to testng.org and that will be the link, okay? That will be the link, right? So introduction to test automation frameworks for Java programming language. Basically the TestNG is your reference. Classes handling in test automation from TestNG. Use of XML in test automating. So that also we are going to cover. Use of annotation in test automation. Again, it's all referred to TestNG. And Ref 6 is TestNG website. Okay, right. So basically TestNG, so they say use Eclipse IDE, but I will be using IntelliJ because exam, they don't ask about IDE, they just ask about the theory part, okay? So therefore it doesn't matter because I am more familiar with the IntelliJ, I will be using IntelliJ, but you can always refer to YouTube materials, and if you want, you can refer to Eclipse as well. But for the exam, it is not going to issue. It's not going to be issue. Okay, right. So let me go through the note and practical. Parallelly, we'll do some practical things as well. Okay, right. Java-based test automation using TestNG. So here we only look at unit testing, right? Not anything else, because web testing we covered in the last class. Mobile app testing is separate topic. So therefore we will only cover here Java-based unit testing. Though your topic says testing, but basically we will concentrating on unit testing only because that is TestNG is basically unit testing framework. Okay, right. So we'll look at the unit testing frameworks and also how to build integrate of your unit testing. Integrate your unit test into your build process. But that is not directly done in this topic because that is in your different topic. But we are only looking at the unit testing frameworks, how to write unit tests, how to run unit tests, how to generate a unit testing report, okay, things like that for Java. Right. So when it comes to Java-based unit testing frameworks, so the two most popular frameworks are JUnit and TestNG. And for .NET or C Sharp, there's NUnit. So JUnit is the older one, TestNG is the new one. So therefore, in your syllabus, we refer to the TestNG. Basically, TestNG is an improvement of JUnit. So therefore, you don't need to learn about JUnit because TestNG is pretty much like JUnit, but it has more features. Okay. So basically, TestNG inspired from JUnit and NUnit and added more features. Okay. Right. So when it comes to Java build systems, because this is about Java, we have two major build systems. Build system means build your software project, right? Compile, make Java files, WAR files, and so on. So there are two major build systems for Java, that is and Maven. Both are Apache projects. Ant is the old approach. Maven is the new approach. So with Maven, you can do whatever you can do with Ant. Plus, Maven has library management, dependency management. If your application refer to other Java files, other frameworks, it's easier to work with Maven. So therefore, these days, people very rarely use Ant. Rather, we mostly use Maven. Okay, so just like rather than using JUnit, we use TestNG for the testing. So build systems, the Apache Ant is the older approach. Apache Maven is the new approach and more sophisticated approach. So therefore, in this discussion, we will be using TestNG as our unit testing framework, and we will be using Maven as our build framework. Okay, build frameworks. Okay, right. So let's first look at TestNG. Java Maven we will be using in our projects. Okay. Right. As I told you, TestNG is a unit testing framework. Of course, you can call it testing framework, but it's predominantly a unit testing framework. You test your units like methods, right? Important business functionalities and so on. So usually unit testing is done by software developers, right? So while they develop the code, so they do the unit testing. For example, say you develop a sorting algorithm. So you want to test whether actually the sorting is working. So that is called unit testing. So you send some unsorted data and get the return value and check whether it is according to the sorted order. So that you can write a unit test. Okay. So TestNG is such a testing framework or unit testing framework inspired by JUnit, which was another earlier Java unit testing framework, and NUnit, which is uh, unit testing framework for C Sharp. Okay. Of course, TestNG is for Java, not for C Sharp. So TestNG has a lot of features. Most of these features borrowed from JUnit. And also TestNG has introduced some more new features like use of annotations, grouping of test cases, parameterization, parallel execution of testing, right? Dependency testing, and also test configuration using XML. So those are some features of TestNG. Okay. Right. So this is what we are going to do in this, because we are going to do it as a practical scenario. Right? We are going to do it as a practical scenario. First, we are going to use IntelliJ because it's very easy. Right? First, we are going to create a Maven project using IntelliJ. Then we are going to add dependencies for TestNG jar files, because when you write TestNG related unit test cases, you are referring to some classes in TestNG framework. So those classes are in a jar files. So if you, in order to get those jar files to your project, you need to change pom.xml, which is a standard dependency management file when we use Maven build system for Java. That is our step number 2. So then we will write our test cases, right? And run our test cases. And we will experiment with different features TestNG support. Right? So it's not a very big thing. Okay. right? So therefore, we are going to do it as a practical thing. While we are doing that practical, we are going to learn basic concepts and then we'll do the past paper question as well. Okay, right. So first, since I am using IntelliJ, so I'm going to create a new project, Java project. But that project, of course, that project is going to be Java project, right? Java project. But we are going to use Maven as the build system. By default, it is the IntelliJ is your build system, but we are going to use Maven as the build system, right? So then we are going to add the dependency because Maven can handle dependencies. It will automatically download and add Java files to your project, start then you manually edit. So we are going to add these two dependencies to, I will do it practically later. These two dependencies to the pom.xml file, that is the dependency file in Maven projects. Okay, dependency files from Maven project. One is to download testng, right? Org testing is your testng artifact. It will download the testng related jar files. And testng depends on another library file called some login framework. Okay. So therefore, we need to add that also. Of course, if you don't add this, still you can run it, but you will get some warnings, an error message sometimes. So therefore, we will add this also. I have given you the entire code, right? Entire this code you can download as a zip file, but and you can copy paste. Okay, so you can get it from. So this is zip file. You can download and get the code. It has all the classes, this POM XML file, and everything. But just make sure you build the project and copy paste the relevant parts. Okay, right. So that is our second step. Update the POM XML so that you download your project will download these Java files automatically, right? Something like this. So then we are going to start writing our test cases, right? Test test cases. Simple as that. Okay. So it's super simple thing. If you are already familiar with IntelliJ, of course, we have been using IntelliJ from semester one, programming one subject. IntelliJ we used in semester four, sorry, semester three, data structures and algorithms. Okay. So then you can start. Usually you have the main and test. Usually we write test cases under test package, right? So then we will start learning the basic concepts of test engine, right? So let's do it. Okay. I told you it's not a big thing, right? So I'll start my IntelliJ. You can just have the latest IntelliJ. Version doesn't matter much, right? So you can just download the IntelliJ free version, community edition. If most probably you will be already having it. Because unless you do these things in practical way, you will not understand it, right? Otherwise, you need to memorize it blindly, right? Which is very stressful thing to do, right? So I'm going to create a new project, right? File, new project, just like normal case, right? And there I'm going to give it a name. I'll call it test ng demo one. Okay. So then language must be Java. Build system must be Maven. Language must be Java. Build system must be Maven. Okay, so just make sure it's Java and Maven. And of course, you must have your JDK with you. So make sure you have a valid JDK. Okay, right. So I already have JDK. So therefore, I don't have any issue. Then I will say create. Right. So remember, it's don't select Maven archetype. It's a normal project. So there's something called Maven archetype. I have not selected that. I just select the default, right? New project, gave it a name, language is Java, build system is Maven, and make sure you have JDK, right? Whatever the JDK. Usually, if you have a JDK, it will be picked. Right? Now you can say create. And it will ask whether start in the new this window or new window. I'll say create it in a new window. Okay, so that only that project is there. Right. So it has created a dummy class under, you can see this is our code is in SRC. It has two folders, main and test. We are going to write our test cases under test, but no test cases have been written. Okay. Uh, but it has created a class called Java, right? Sorry, a package org example and class. Right? So just if you want to double check whether your project is now working, okay, what is this my test? Right. So I think I already have a class called this. So therefore, let's project call this. Okay. So let's create a new project with different name because you can see already there's a file here. Let me create a fresh project. Okay. New project, Java, Maven. I'll call it my project. Okay? My project because otherwise maybe I already have a project with the same name. Okay. Java, Maven. Okay. Create new window. Okay, new window. Right. Hopefully this is a fresh one. Right. So no other classes, nothing. Okay. Right. No other classes and nothing. Uh, right. So here you can see it's a Maven project. Okay. Maven project. They have created one class for you just to check whether the project is working. And also it has created a folder called resources and folder called test, but no test classes. And this is our POM XML. If it is a Maven Java project, you will always have the pom.xml where you write your dependencies, right? Now you can run and double check whether this project is working. Just right click on your main class. Okay, it's just print 1 to 5, and that is just double check whether your project is now working and see whether you get the if you could check whether you get no errors. Okay, so this is pure Java, right? Right, no issue. Right. So now I'm not interested in this class. Okay. But let's just keep it. Okay. Right. So now, because we are going to use testng, we need to add testng dependency to this particular form XML, which is already generated by IntelliJ. Because then only we can use testng related classes, annotations in your testing. Okay. So how to do that? As I told you, you need to add this dependency, right? Under dependencies, uh, add these two dependency. One is testng, other one is logging, which is internally referred by testng. Okay, because when I copied from PowerPoint, sometimes there are special characters, so therefore I'll copy it from my code. Okay, I have kept, of course, code is available for you also download. Okay, you also better copy it from that rather than from the PDF file. Okay, so let me copy it from there. So this is form XML. Right. So these are the two entries. I will add it to my new project. Okay. New project. So many projects. Let me delete, close this. Right. I will add it. So already there's you can see the form XML is already there. But I will add it at the end because no dependencies tag. Right. So I have added the two dependencies, one for org testing, that is testng. Other one is org slfj. Okay, so that is logging framework. Right. And here you can see there's something called external libraries. right? So in the external library, still I cannot see any test ng related things, right? So make sure you save this. And if it is a Maven project, you will see there's something called M here in IntelliJ. You can just click it, right? Click it. Uh, and ask it to download any dependencies, right? Dependencies. You can just say refresh, reload all Maven projects. Now, when I refresh, you can see all of a sudden some more downloaded here, some more downloaded here, which includes test-ng. You can see org testing test-ng, right? And also SL4J. So that means those jar files are downloaded when I refresh. Right? When I if of course, if even though when you don't refresh, when you run your application, it will be downloaded. But when you refresh, because I changed my form XML, now it has downloaded the test-ng related jar files and that log jar files because we have specified those. Okay, right. So that is also done. Okay, that is also done. Now we can start writing our test cases and uh, test case. Now you can see these are available because I do the refreshing. Now we can create our test classes and start coding. Okay, right. So I'll call this test case one. Okay, test case one. Now we are going to use test ng, right? Test Java, right click and say, okay, let me close this because now let me close this also. Right click and say new under test, okay, test Java, new, just it's a Java class. Java class. I'll call it test case one. We are going to do few test cases. And it's a class, it's normal class. Right? Now we are going to write a small test class, unit test class. Okay. But usually when you write unit test cases, first of all, you must have your code, but we are just going to do some dummy unit testing. Okay. Dummy unit testing. So you can just write a method, testing method, which is hard coded method. Okay. So let's say public. You don't need a main method. Say public, make sure your methods are all public. Void, say my test one. Okay, so let's just have a shout here. My first test. It's actually not a test. We just want to check whether we can run this test case. Okay, right. So test ng doesn't know that this is a test case unless you add ampersand test, right? Ampersand test annotation. So you can add ampersand test annotation only after you import it. Right? You need to import it. So then only you can add it. Okay. You can see there's something called import class. Okay, import class. Or you can just right, it's says create annotation, import class, and so on. Okay, just give me 1 minute. Just give me 1 minute. Right, sorry for that. So you need to import this particular annotation, right? So how do you import it? It is in org testing annotations test. Okay. So make sure you import it. Now you can see that this is not read. Right now it is a test case. It's a test ng test case. So this class is available because we added that Maven dependency and it has download the test ng class. Right. So now make sure you save it Control S. Now you can run it from here. You can see there are two arrows. You can run individual test case or all the test cases in your class. So this is running only this particular test case. If you have multiple, of course, right now we are having only one. This is if you want to run everything. Okay. Uh, right. Or else you can just right click and say run. Okay. Right. I will only run this test case. That means this button run test and run my test one because my test name is my test one. Okay. Right. Now let's see whether what happens. It's getting built. Right. Don't worry about this warning. Though it is red, it is not an issue. And it says my first test because that is my output, system out println. And it says total test run 1, pass 1, fail 0, skip 0. That means we have only one test and that test is pass. That test is pass. Of course, this is not really a test. This is an empty test. So therefore, obviously it must be pass. Right? It must be pass. Okay? Right. So that is how you write test. Now, if you want to write another test, of course, these are not real tests. You can just add another test. I'll call it my test 2. I'll say my second test. Now I have 2 tests. Now, if I want to run only this test, just say run test. That will run only second test, my test 2. You can see my second test. I just want you to familiar with the environment. Now, if you want to run both in this class, go to the class and say run. Now it says only one test run, right? Run one, pass one. But now my class has 2 tests. You can go to the class level rather than the test method level. Just say run test case 1 because my test class name is test case 1. Now it will again build and run. Right. Now you can see that both output. That means it has run both my test 1 and my test 2. How do test engine know that these are tests? Because we have the test annotation. Right. That is why we got the 2 system out println outputs, and also it's now say run 2 test, pass 2, no failures or nothing skipped. Okay. So that is how you do it. Or else you can just right click here and say run test case. Then of course it will run all the test cases in your class. Okay. Right. But these are not really test cases. These are just dummy tests, right? It's always pass because we are not testing anything. Okay. We don't test anything. Okay. So then what you need to do is you have your code here. Right. Say we have code here. So let's create a class, new Java class. So let's say calculator. Calculator. So let's have a class method, say static method, so that I don't need to create objects. Say it return int, say static int add. This is super simple thing. Okay. Say int x, int y, and it returns the sum. Return x plus y. Now I want to test this whether the add method. Of course, this is nothing to test, right? But let's see. Simple scenario. So that means if I send 10 and 5, I must get 15 if this is working fine. Right. So now what I can do is I can create those instances here. Right. For example, say test I have class called calculator. Right, calculator, you can see now the calculator class is available. So it has a method called uh, add. Okay, add, which I will send 10 and 15. Right, so why I can't see it? Because I need to import it. Right, it's in org example calculator, right? So I need to import that also. Org example calculator is there, right? But it return something. So therefore I'll say int R1. So why I'm getting error? Not public. I need to make that public method also. Right? Static public because it's in a different package. Right. So now I get the output. Okay, I get the output. Uh, Say I want to check whether the output is correct. If of course this is not rocket science, but if I have implemented this in a correct manner, I should get 50. Right, I must get 50 because this is always otherwise getting passed, right? So therefore, for that we have something called assertions. Right? For example, if you go down, so there's something called assert equals. So this is the actual value, return value. This is my expectation. This is a message if my expectation is not met. Right? So let's have assert so that it is now real test case. Otherwise, it is just a dummy thing. Right? So now I'll have my test anyway. Afterwards, I will have assert. Right? Of course, if you are using assert, you need to import that. Okay, import that. That is for testing assert. So my actual value I'm getting is R1. I'll use R1 here. And my expected value is I will hard code it. 10 and 15 means 25. I'm expecting 25. And this is what I'm getting from the method. Okay, this is what I'm getting from the method, and this is my expected value. Second parameter is expected value. And the third parameter is any error message if test case fail, because it's assert equal. I'll say add method fail. So that only if these two are not matching. Okay. Now, of course, I have implemented it in such a way that it returns the correct value. So therefore, I should get test pass here. Of course, this is always passed because I am not doing any assertion. But my test one must also be passed. Now this is actually a real test case because I call this method and get the return value and check whether that return value is my expected value of 25 because I'm sending 10 and 15. So therefore I'm expecting 25. And if I'm not getting 25, I'll get this error message. But in this case, I should not get the error message. Rather, it should say test pass. Right? So let's run only this test case. Is it clear? Right. Right. It says my first test that is coming from this. And you can say pass one. That means test pass. Obvious test pass because I'm expecting 25 and I have implemented in proper way. So let's assume by mistake I make it minus. That is my I have bug. Right? I have bug in my code because I'm supposed to add it, but I have subtract. So then obviously I'm not going to get 25, right? But I'm not going to get 25. Now if I run this test case, right, I'm going to get test failure because this assert equal is not going to get because 10 minus 15 is minus 5. Minus 5 and 25 are different. So therefore, it will be test failure and this error message will be given in the test. Okay, so let's run that. Now we can see right? Method failed, assertion error, right? Because expected 25, actual minus 5. Actual minus 5. So therefore, it's assertion failure. And also you can see that I have run one test case and nothing passes. It's a failure because I run only one test case. But if I run my entire test suite, anyway, this is automatically getting passed because I'm not doing anything. So then one pass, one fail. Let's run it again. But this time the test pass. Right, again, the test failure is there, but now one test pass because I'm not really doing any testing there. Other test fail. One test pass, other test fail. Okay. So likewise, so you can have your code here. You can have your test code here. So your classes can be test using your test classes. It's super cool approach, right? So that is called unit testing. So that is what the software developers do. Of course, you don't need a test case to test whether your ad method is working, right? But maybe it's a very complicated method you are doing. Maybe calculating some gross profit of an organization, right? Bill totals, and so on. So then definitely, uh, because the advantage is you can incorporate this into your build. If someone by mistake change this logic and make a mistakes, all of a sudden your test start to fail. So immediately people know that someone has made an error. Okay, right. I hope it is clear now, right? Right. So that is how you do it. Right? So make sure you use test annotation. Then only it is considered as a test. Right? So then you can either run individual test or you can write the entire all the test in your class. Right? And you get the output like this. Right. So then there are life cycle methods because sometimes when you run a test case, you need to maybe you want to get the database connectivity and blah blah blah. Okay. Some maybe you want to prepare some test data. Maybe after running the method, you want to clean up those variables and so on. Right? Maybe before starting the test, you need to do certain things. So therefore, there are life cycle methods available in TestNG. So of course, these can be any method you want, but you can mark those using these annotations. We already use this annotation, test. It marked that it is a test method. So then you have before method, after method. If you have a method having this annotation, every time a test method is called, this is getting called. If every time your method is if completed, this is getting called. That means every after each and every test method, this method is called. Any method with this annotation is called. At the end of that test method is called. Each and every method, this method with this annotation will be called. Remember, your test methods are in a class. So before you start test methods in a particular class, your method with this annotation will be called. After all your methods in that class, test methods in that class is called, your method with this annotation will be called. That is after class. So then there's a concept called test suites where you can join set of test classes into one test suite. Test suite means related test. So then before your test suite start, if you have any method with this annotation will be called. And at the end of all your test classes related to that test suite is executed, the method with this particular annotation or after suite will be called. So this is the past paper question they have asked also. Okay, right. So it's super easy. So let's create another test class so that we can explain these life cycle methods. Okay, so I'll copy paste the code from my code base. So that will be my test case 2. Yes, test case 2. I'll create a class called test case 2. I just copy paste because otherwise it will take time for me to code it. Okay. Under test, okay? Under test. new Java class. I'll call it test case 2, normal class. Right? I will copy paste because otherwise it takes time. Okay. Right. So this is my second test case. I call it test case 2. I have imported the testing annotations entire package so that I don't need to import separately. Right. So this is my test method. I have two test methods, test method 1 and test method 2. Because why do I know that those are test methods? Because the test annotation is added. So then I have added some methods. These methods can have any name, even X, Y, Z. But make sure you give the correct annotation. So this is before suit annotation. So if you have test suit, first of all, this method will be called. Of course, still we don't have a test suit, but anyway, this will be called because your test ng will assume that this is the only class in that test suit. Okay. So therefore, this one is going to be the first one to execute this method. And after test suit, this will be the last method to execute because that is after executing the test suite, that is set of related test classes. In this case, we have only one test class. So this will be the last output. This will be the first output because test suite before suite, after suite. Then we have test class. So then before class method will be called after before suite is called because this is our class. Right? And then it's going to start calling your methods. But we have before method. So that means before every test method, this will be called. That means first this will be called and then it will call this particular test. And after this particular test is called, it will call this particular after method, annotated method. Right? So then it will call the next text method. But before that, again, it will call the before method because this is a test method. So then the test method 2 will be called and then again it will call the after method second time. Now all the test methods are finished. Now it will call the after class method. Then after the after class method is called, it will call the after suit method. So that is what is going to happen. Okay. Right. So you can see that if you run the test class, because otherwise if you just, for example, if you just run one method, you may not see it properly. Okay. Right. So anyway, let's run one method. Say test method 1. So I'm going to run only that method. Okay. Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. Run. I just run test method 1. It's getting built. Right. What happens? So it has called the bit before suit because this method is in a default suit. Then before class because this method is in this particular class. Then before method because this is a test method. This is a test method. So the before method is this before method output. And now it has run this. You can see test 1 running this. Then the after method, this one. After method. Then the after class because the class is now over. And the after suit. I just run this method, but it has run all these lifecycle methods. Okay. And in between, this particular method is also getting called. Now, if I run the test suit, what is going to be the output? Again, first one is going to be before suit, then before class, then before method, then your test method, then after method, then again before method, then your second test method, then after method, then after class, then after suit. Because we have two test methods here. Right now I'm running the test suit. Test class. And look at the output now. So again, it must be before test suit. Yes, before suit. Then before class. So then before method, because it's now going to run our first test method. That is this one, test 1. So before test 1, before method, then after method. Then it is try to run the test method 2, but before that again before method and after method. Now all the test methods are done. So now it is after class, that is because the class is now over. Then after suit, because though we have not created a suit, it has created a default suit for this class. Okay. Is it clear? If it is not clear, if you ask, I can explain it again. Okay. So this is something they have asked in the past paper question. Okay. Past paper question. And life cycle methods. So why do we have this method? Of course, you can give this any name, even XYZ, because it's identified using annotation, not by your name. Now, for example, if you need something to be done, some environment setup, initializations, before the test suite, you can write those code here. Right? You can write those code here. And before this particular class of test is run, if you need to do something, initialization, this is the place to do it. And before each and every method, if you want to do something, this is the place. It doesn't mean that you always need all these methods. Depending on you do it. And then clean up after each method, you can do it. Clean up after the class, you can do it. And clean up after the suit, you can do it in relevant places. Okay, relevant places. Right. 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 So those are the basic life cycle related annotations. Okay. Before method, before class, before suit, after suit. Okay. And of course, the test where your actual test methods. These are life cycle methods. Right. Right. Assertions I already explained you. So basically, assertions can be used to check whether you get the expected output. So your actual output, expected output, if those are not tally, if those are not the same, this error message will be shown and test case will be failed. Right? Test case will be failed for that test. Of course, then at the end, some tests are passed, some tests are failed. So if tests are failed, that means there are some issues. Unit testing fail means there are bugs in the code. Right. So the next concept is dependencies. So there can be situation where when you run a particular test method, it depends on some other methods. Of course, you can use the before method, after method, but before method and after method is going to execute it for each and every test method, right? Because before method is going to be executed before each and every test method. But there can be your special test cases. But before doing that, you need to do some special case and which you need to reuse maybe for some, you have 10 test cases. Out of those 10 test cases, maybe for test case, before the test case 3 and 4, you need to do something. Only for test 3 and 4. Now you can't put it into before method because it will be executed before all the 10 methods. So that is where you can have the dependencies. So you can mark that before this test method is run the dependency method, and then run this test method. So there you can do some uh, further initializations and so on. Okay. Right. So let's take an example for that also. Right. So assertion question we have done. Right. So this is a dependency question. Right. In my case, I will call it test case 3. Okay, because I have on test case 2. New Java class test case 3. I'll copy paste because my method name is also correct. Right. I'll call this test case 3. Right. So this is my test method because you have the ampersand test. Okay. and it says login success or something like that. Let's call it login method, login test method. But you can see there's another test method, and it also has the test annotation, but it says depends on method is login. Okay. So that means now let's run, and I will first run and then explain. I will just run the test suite because it has only two test methods. Okay. This is my first test method. This is my second test method. My second test method is login. My first test method is access dashboard. Though this is my first test method, usually it runs from top to bottom, but it says this test method depends on login method. So therefore, before running this test method, it is going to run this test method. It is also test method. So this says before running this particular test, make sure you run this test. Right? Of course, one way doing that is you put it down after this because usually run from top to bottom, but there can be complex test scenarios where one X depends on Y depends on Z and so on. In that case, you can't rely on top to bottom. So therefore, this will be before this is run, because of this annotation, it will first run this. And after running this only, it will run this. Okay. This can be a test or this can be just something to initialize certain things specifically for this method. Now I will run the test suite. Though this is top, first it will run this login success and then access dashboard. Right? Let's run. And obviously test is going to be passed. Right? You can see login success, access dashboard. It's two tests because both are having tests. Okay, test. So you can see though this is up, first it has called the login, and that is why you got login success message because this depends on this. So therefore it has run this first and then it has run this. Right? What happens if you don't have the test annotation? Still, is it going to work or do we need that annotation? Let's double check that also. So let's cut this and now let's run it. Right now, of course, it is not going to work because if it is depending on, it must also be a test. Now you can see this depends on login. So then it expects that login is also a test. So therefore, when a particular test depends on another thing, first of all, it must be a test. Right? You can't just ask it to login depends on a normal method. It must be annotated with test. Now it should again run. Right, now it is fine because that test depends on the other test. Okay, that test depends on the other. So that is called dependency. Okay, dependency. Right, so then you can have the test priority. Remember, usually your test will be run from top to bottom of your class. Okay, but if you want to don't rely on the top to bottom, you want to specify, okay, this test must be run first, then the other test, and so on. It's not dependency, different concept, priority. Okay. So if you don't specify the priority, of course, so far we have not specified priority. By default, it will be zero priority. Right? But you can set the priority as priority 1, priority 2, priority 3. Higher the priority, it's high priority. Okay. And again, if you have same priority more than once, the top one will be first executed. Say priority 2 is in 2 places, the top priority 2 will be executed first. Okay. Right. So let's do an exercise for that also. I will call this test case 4. So test case 4. Basically, that is our final example. new Java class under test case 4. I'll copy paste the code. It must be test case 4. Right. Now I have set of test classes. I don't have any dependency or life cycle. Okay. Just I have 1, 2, 3, 4 test classes, test methods. Right. If I don't have the priority, it will be executed as this one, this one, this one, this one. Okay. Top to bottom, top to bottom. Or if I have the same priority, okay, say all I have in priority 0. So then it is going to execute it in the top to bottom way. Of course, this one is also 0 priority by default. Okay. Now let's run it and see. It is VA. That is my output. Why don't I get the output? Maybe I have not run the test suite. Let's run the test suite. Sorry, test class. Right. Wow, priority is there. Where is priority? Maybe I have not saved it. Anyway, that is fine, right? Because that is because we have specified in our hard coded in our output, right? Hard code in our output. So basically, it has run test A, test B. How comes test B? I think it has executed it using default order, alphabetical order. It looks like okay. Right. So let's put it back to the hard coded values. This is 3. This is 1. Right. And this is right. 2, 1, 3, 3, and this is default. This is default. So default means no priority set means it is 0. Now let's run and see. Okay. Now let's run and see. And now it must first run high priority. Okay. Let's run the test class. Sorry, the lower priority means high priority, right? Priority 1 means highest priority. Priority 2 means lower than that. Priority 3 means lower than that. That is how it works. Sorry, I made a small mistake earlier. So the priority 1 is the highest priority. Priority 2 is the next highest. Priority 3 is the next highest. So don't think that the higher the number be better. No, lower the number better. Okay, lower the number better. So therefore, 0 priority is the highest priority. Right? So we have the default priority. So default priority means 0 priority. So therefore it has run this one first, running the test default priority. So then it has run the test method having priority 1, right? Priority 1 that is running test A. So then it has run test 2, test B because it has priority 2. Then it has run test C because it has priority 3. Priority 3. So the 0 priority, priority 1, priority 2, priority 3, and so on. Okay, so that is called priority. So if you have the same priority, usually it's from top to bottom, okay, of those test cases. Right. So now we are moving to our final subtopic. Now, remember we discussed about test suites. Test suite, but so far what we have been working with these test classes. And test class has test methods. Maybe we want to consider these 4 test cases as one test suite or maybe another set of test cases as a different test suite. So that is called test suite. Test suite means set of related test cases. So how do you relate different set of different test cases into one test suite? So that is where you need to create a test XML file, right? Text XML file or testing XML files, or you can give them different name, testing one, testing two, and so on for different suites. And in general, we call them testing XML. So you can create your testing XML anywhere you want, but the best place is under test, create a folder called resources and put it there. That is in IntelliJ the best practice. Okay. So therefore, we'll create a folder called uh, because it's a resource file, it's not a Java class. So under test, I will create a folder or directory. Let's call it resources, and I will add the test XML file here. I will only having only one. Okay, test ng XML. Right? Test ng XML new file. It's basically a normal file, and call it test ng.xml. You can give any name actually, but make sure it's XML file. And now you can create your test suite here. Okay, test suite here. How to do that? You just add this entry. Okay, just entry. Okay, I'll copy paste the entry because it will take time to type it. Test. So where is my test? SRC test resources. Testing. I will copy paste the code. Okay, I'll copy paste this. It's just XML file to my newly created test engine XML. Right, it's a simple thing. It has a tag called suite. That is why I told you we are creating a test suite, and you can give it a name. Okay, example suite those. Maybe payment test suite, order test suite, depending on your functionalities or whatever. Then you can define your test. Test suite can have different tests, and each test can have different classes. So in our case, we have test classes, test 1, test case 1, test case 2, test case 3, test case 4. Let's add all 4. Test case 1, test case 2, test case 3, or you can just pick and choose whatever you want. I will add all 4. So that I will now using this XML file, I can run all these 4 test classes together. Otherwise, I need to execute them one by one, right? Like by this, run this, run this, run this. But now I have a test suite in my testing XML, which I have specified all the classes. And now when I run this particular XML file, basically I'm running all these test classes. These must be valid class names, right? Valid class names. Make sure you save it. Now you can right click on the testing XML and you can say run it. Run it. So that means you are running test case 1, test case 2, test case 3, test case 4 all. Okay. Together. So it will build first. Now you can see there are 10 test cases, 9 pass, 1 fail. Of course, 1 fail because we deliberately make sure that, okay, let's fix that bug so that all test cases pass. So the fixing must be here, calculator class, and it must return plus. Now all my test cases must be passed. Because earlier there was assertion error, failure, but now I fixed that bug. Right now, no errors, nothing. These are the life cycle methods of system out println. Now all 10 test cases are passed. Now I run it as a test suite. A test suite. Now you can see the better suite is also, but better suite is created only once, right? Before each and every class, before class is created. You can see before class is created over and over. Because I have 4 classes, 4 times before class must be called. 4 times before class must be called. Before class, after class. But after suit and better, before suits is called only once. It's called only once because it is before a particular test suit. Okay, so that is our configuration file. Configuration file for test suits. You can have multiple test suits as well, like test ng1, test ng2, or you can give any name as well. Okay, don't worry. Right. So final subtopic is generating test reports. Of course, this is also test report, but this test report is just in the for the developer to see how many tests is passed and so on. But it's always good to report your test formal manner and document it. Right? Document it. So that is where we have test reporting features. So TestNG has those features by default. Uh, but you need to configure it. Okay, this is how you configure it. So first of all, create a. Okay, just give me 1 minute. Okay. First of all, you need to create a folder so that your reports will be generated there. Reports are basically some HTML files. Okay. Right. So let's create a folder and let's call it report. Maybe you can create it in your root folder as well. Right. It can be anywhere because we must ask IntelliJ where to put your test reports. Right. So I'll just create the test under my project, new folder or directory. Okay. I'll call it report. Report or any name you want. Okay. Right. Report. So now we need to configure and say that all TestNG reports must go into this folder or whatever the folder you created. Okay. So how to do that? So everything is described here. Select the project and go to the main menu and run edit configuration. Right? And add the newly created report folder as the output directory. Right? I'll show you how to do that. So you need to go to the output directory under configurations and say this is my output directory. Okay. So then you need to go to the listeners and enable one of the listeners. It depends on the details you need. So let's use emailable report listener. So those are the two things you need to do. Okay. Right. So you need to go to the run edit configuration. Right. Make sure you are in the project menu, run edit configuration. Edit configuration. So make sure you have output folder. It's empty now. You need to go and select. Right. It's in my project one report. This is the newly created folder. Now the output will be going into this. Right. Now go to the listeners. no listeners are there, right? So that means different levels of reports what you need for the test ng. Okay, so I will say add and select something like email reporter to. It's coming from org test ng. It's a test ng reporter. Emailable reporter to, or anything something like email, or you can select any other uh, reporter. Then you need to refer to the test ng documentation and find out what are the different type of reporters available. Okay, right. That's it. So I selected the output folder. I selected the uh, report. I added the listener, right? Org test ng reporter, emailable reporter. Then I will just say okay. Right now we are done. Now we can run our test suite, right? When the test suite is run, in addition to this output, it will generate a report, test report, and put it there. Okay. Right now I'll go to my resources folder because that is where I have the uh, that is where I have the uh, my test ng XML, and I will run it. I'll run it now. Still report folder has nothing, but now let's run it and see. Again, all the tests must be passed, right? But now if you go to the report folder, right, there's something called emailable report HTML. Of course, all our test cases are passed, okay? That is your report generated. Now you can check that, right click because it's HTML file. You can go for open in browser because it's HTML file. Let's open it in our built-in preview is also there, but I will open it in Firefox. Okay. Why is nothing is there? Okay. So this is it. You can see it's all green. Test 10 tests and all the test cases are passed and the time taken to run the test case and everything is there. This is test case 1, test case 2, test case 3, test case 4. The test methods all are passed. Okay. Let's make one of the test case fail again by making this returning wrong value. Let's take it back to minus. Then one test case will be failed. Right. So let's run it again. Run. Now, of course, there will be assertion failure also. Yes. Right. Now let's refresh this. Now you can see, right? One test case is failed. So this is how you report it. Okay. And you can see the error message also for that test case. Right. So that is how you do the reporting. And anyway, exam, they will not ask much about reporting, but I just explained you how to get the report also in IntelliJ. Of course, if you use uh, Eclipse, you need to refer to the Eclipse related configurations. Okay. Right. That's it. Anyway, the university has not given you any uh, note for this, but I just prepared it today itself because otherwise you guys will be a little bit uh, you don't know what to do. Okay. Right. That's it. Okay. Right. So there's only one past paper question. Of course, you have only two past papers subject, and in one of the year they have asked test engine related question. Right. So this is 2023 last year. 2022 no question, but 2023 there's a question. So that means there's a high chance you will also get a question. Right. So question 4A. TestNG is a testing framework for Java programming language. Name two unit testing frameworks that were mainly used to develop TestNG. Remember, TestNG was inspired by JUnit and NUnit. So it's directly, I mentioned, it's anyway mentioned in your uh, TestNG documentation also. So what are the two frameworks inspired TestNG? JUnit and NUnit. JUnit and NUnit. So based on those two frameworks, test ng was developed, right? Test ng was developed, adding more features. But of course, NUnit is for the C#.NET. But anyway, basically NUnit was developed based on JUnit. And then NUnit also add some more features. Those features also absorbed to the test ng, though NUnit was for the .NET, the concepts were absorbed here. Okay. Right, so that is 2023 question 4A. Then question 4B, write down the output of the following test ng program. It's a test ng program or test ng test case in the given box. Note, use your knowledge of test ng annotations, execution sequences. You can see. So this is super easy now because we did it. So how many test cases are there? So two test cases are there. This is a test case. This is a test case, but this one must be priority 0. This is priority 1. So that means this must execute before this. But you can see before method, after method, before test, after test, before suit, after suit are there. So therefore, first of all, it will run the before suit. That will be the first one. Right. So then before test, right, before test, then before method, then the test, your test 1, which is this one, because it's priority 0, then it will run the test case 1. Then after method will be called. After method will be called. So then again the before method, because we are going to run our second test now. Again before method. Then your second test, which is priority 1. Then after method. Right. So then after test and after suit. After suit. Okay. So that should be the order. Okay. So starting with C, then B, then A, then test 1, then again A, okay, then again A, and then test 2. I don't know why twice A, test 2, that is 7. So, yeah, that is 6. Then again A, after method, then B, that is after test, and finally C, that is after suit. After suit. Okay. So that is how it works. So before suit, before test, then before method, then your first method, then after method, then again before method, then second test method, then after method, then after test, and then after suit. Okay. Right. So those are the two questions given, or the two sub questions they have asked in 2023. Okay. So though they have not published a note, they have asked question. Okay. Right. I hope now it is clear, right, or reasonably clear how to write test ng, but make sure you do it as a practical thing. Okay. Right. So now we have finished this particular topic. You can always get help from ChatGPT. So to generate this PowerPoint presentation also, I got some help from ChatGPT to ask them to generate some examples and just copy paste it, right? So, right. So now we are done with this one. Okay. So now we have two more topics and the rest of this part, right? Two more topics and rest of this part. Of course, testing mobile applications we will do after finishing the mobile part. Okay, because we need two more topics to finish. Of course, this is pretty theory part. Monetization is not technical thing. So just 1.5 technical topics. Then we'll come back and do the mobile testing. And here we have just two more topic. And for this, university has not published any note anyway. But we need to do the social network analysis, and then that subject is also over. Okay. Right. After the break, we are going to do the final topic of e-business and then do some past paper questions on e-business. Okay. Right. So now it's 8:23. We'll start at 8:40. Right. 8:40. And we'll finish the topic and start doing past papers. Okay, so let's continue. First, we'll finish this one. It's a very small topic, okay? And then we'll straight away do past papers. Right. So the code is available in Google Classroom, right? You can build the code. The last topic, then we can start doing past papers. Right. Entrepreneurial opportunities in e-business. Okay. Right. Remember, in e-business is there are two aspects of e-business. One thing is you start your own e-business or you start your own business. That is called entrepreneur opportunities. Second thing is you support others e-businesses like as IT manager, marketing manager, and so on, right? So this is about you, if you are planning to start your own business, maybe your major career or as a sort of a part-time business. What kind of opportunities are there? Okay. And of course, we are not going to look at how to start a new business like selling things because that is the main topic. Some other possibilities, okay? Some other entrepreneurial opportunities based on your talents, right? So we will look at some possibilities using Fiverr, freelance platform, Google AdSense, Google Ad Mob, drop shipping, affiliated marketing, and some possibilities through cryptocurrencies. Okay. And also some practical aspect they have mentioned, create a jig in Fiverr, create a Google AdSense account. So basically our main concerns, main objectives are opportunities related to Fiverr, opportunities related to Google AdSense and AdMob, dropshipping, affiliated marketing, and cryptocurrency. Okay. Right. So Fiverr is a freelance uh, marketplace. So if you are a freelancer, you can market yourself there. And if you are looking for services from others, especially from freelancers, you can again use Fiverr to uh, get some freelancing services. It's a platform, it's facilitated. Okay. So we call them gigs. Okay. So these services are called gigs. Okay. So it's a competition. So when someone need to get something done, it can publish it and the freelancers can sort of a bid for that. Say this is my experience and I can do it for this amount of money. And again, it's a very open platform so that others can see your previous tasks, the ratings, what your customers have rated you, their comments. So likewise, you need to build a profile if you want to be successful. And at the same time, it's very competitive also because there are plenty of Indians and that kind of people who are willing to do things at a very low price as well. So there are pros and cons. Right. So there are categories of services like graphics design, music and audio, programming and technical things, digital marketing, business, writing and translations, right? Video editing, lifestyles, photography, and you name it. So many categories are there. So you can publish what are your competencies and what you are plan, what you can offer. And also when there are service requests, you can go and bid for them. Bid for them means you can say that, okay, I'm interested in providing you that. Of course, then the other party must select. Right? If they select you, so then you can do the task, deliver it, and if they are happy, they will give you the uh, fees. Okay, of course, if they are not happy, there will be some deductions and so on. Right. So advantages, it has a global exposure because it's all over the world. People are there, service offerings are there. A lot of diverge opportunities are there. A lot of flexibility and control. And also you can build your portfolio. If you do good work, people will recommend you, people will give you good ratings, good comments, so that it increase uh, higher probability, your probability to get more and more responsibilities, more and more tasks, more and more businesses. Okay. So you can do it full time or you can do it part time. But it's super competitive. And also it has some workflow managed by Fiverr so that there are lesser amount of disputes and there's proper process and there's a payment mechanism. Proper payment mechanism is there, especially the ratings and reviews, so that the good people get more opportunities and continuous support from uh, finding new opportunities and so on. Okay. Right. So the disadvantage, as I told you, there's a heavy competition, especially those who are willing to give their services at lower price. Like, of course, the competition is mainly coming from South Asian countries like Sri Lanka, India. Okay. And sometimes the pricing expectations are very low because some people come there to get the things done cheap. But it depends on your profile. If you have a very good profile, you can bid for very advanced things that not everyone can do. Okay. So then you can demand. Right? Sometimes the services are oversaturated also. So many people, too many people offering. And also big percentage of the earnings goes to the fever as well. So that means it will be disadvantages. And also you depends on the platform unless you build your independent websites and so on and make it your own business. And also potentially unreliable clients, especially new clients, maybe they try to get the service and skip payments and so on. Right. So a lot of advantages for clients also. So they get access to large amount of talented freelancers. Usually it is very cost effective for clients because of high competition and also a lot of flexibility. Right. And it's very efficient. You can just find someone very quickly and maybe ask them to do the task from that day itself. Right. And bit of quality assurance is there from Fiverr platform and secure payment transactions, right? Some communication tools to have a dialogue with your freelancer and continuous support. So the disadvantages for the clients, that is those who want to get some things done. So the quality variability, because these are freelancers, right? These are not employees. So therefore there's no 100% guarantee from the freelance platform. And some communication challenges because people from different countries. Maybe they are not very good at communicating. Maybe they are good at their technical things, but not good at communicating, right? Limited divisions, fee structure, again, people take percentage of amount of money from the customer as well. And also you have the limited control, right? Because they are not your employees. And the search results are also platform dependent. So the Fiverr have the bit of control over the search results. And possibility of unreliable freelancers, especially those who are new to the platform, and even fake reviews, fake ratings done by the freelancers and their fake accounts. Sometimes you may get fooled by their fake reviews. Right. So they have given you a practical scenario. Go and create an account and create a Fiverr gig. Of course, make it realistic. Otherwise, people will be fooled by your gig. Okay. Don't put others into trouble by creating fake tasks and so on. Okay. Right. So they have given you the steps that you need to do that. Right. That is not my task. Create account and see what kind of features are available. Right. So this is how you create an activity for gig, but make sure don't create fake activities, right? Then people will uh, think that you are a real freelancer unless you are capable of doing that kind of things. Okay. So you need to find the put it into the real category, some metadata. You need to add some keywords so that your task or your gig is searchable, right? And provide the relevant details, right? Prices, other options, delivery time. Even you can create a FAQ for your gig. Okay. You can even add some photos, videos, that kind of things. If it is related, then you can publish. So if anyone is interested in your task, so they will contact you through the platform. Okay. Right. So the next one is Google AdSense and AdMob. Okay. So those are advertising platforms, web-based advertising platforms. Okay. So AdSense is where publishers can earn money by displaying targets on their website. So if you have a website, right, like a news site or something, so by displaying AdSense advertisements in your website, you can earn money. But of course, you need to have very high impression rate, right? Page impressions, like at least more than 1,000 impressions per day on your pages. Otherwise, the revenue is going to be very low, but at least somewhere around 500. So it's going to give you some sort of a revenue, right? That means 500 pages per day. But there are some websites, even 20,000, 40,000, 50,000 impressions. So they get good, fairly good revenue from AdSense. Okay. Right. So AdMob is mobile advertising platform. So AdMob, right? For your apps. So if you have your apps, maybe app is free of charge, but you can show some AdMob related advertisements in between and get passive sort of a revenue, not direct getting from the users, rather passive revenue from your application for mobile app, okay, by displaying ads. Right. So advantages of AdSense and AdMob for publishers and developers. It's very easy to integrate. You just create an account, then they will give you a code where you need to place those code in your specific locations where you want to get Google ads. Right? You need to decide the advertisement size. Is it the image ad, text ad? So you need to configure and then get the code base and put it there. It's simple as that. So then Google is going to push advertisements when there are page impressions and so on. And you can track your revenue generation daily, monthly. So multiple ad formats are there, like text ad, image ad, video ad, and you can target in whatever the place you want. And you are getting advertisement from third parties through Google. Right, some disadvantages of going for AdSense or AdMob rather than you directly find advertisers. Maybe you can talk to big companies and ask them, right, okay, we have the banner space. You can utilize it for next 1 month. So then you directly get the revenue rather than through AdSense or something, because Google also take a good percentage of your revenue. Right? So when you go for AdSense and that AdMob type things, so there's a volatility. So there's no guarantee. Earnings can vary because it's sort of a competition, right? Your advertisements, your site is competing with other sites because advertisements may not come to your site all the time. Right? So if there are so many other sites, so maybe some advertisement go there and you don't get any advertisement at all some days. That kind of volatility is there. But if you have very good page impressions and so on, yes, there's a higher chance you get a lot of advertisements. Right? And of course, the revenue we shared not only with you, part of the revenue we shared with Google as well. So that cut down bit of your revenue. And possibility of account suspension, termination if you violate any condition. Sometimes those are automated tools. Sometimes even though you don't violate, your accounts are suspended because these algorithms are very fussy. Okay? So those are all of a sudden you lose your account. And also you have very limited control over the advertisement because it is the Google that decides the advertisement, not you. Maybe if the advertisements are not very related to your website, sometimes people will frustrate. Like people will not visit your website also because the advertisements are not related to them. So those are all possible issues. And also there are a lot of ad blocking features by browsers, then your advertisements are not displayed. Right? And also when you have too many advertisements in your website, your genuine users will not like visiting your website saying that there are too many advertisements. So therefore you need to do it in a very sensible manner. Right, advantages for the advertisers. So if I want to advertise my product services, so this is very flexible approach because your your budget can be as low as few dollars per day, like few dollars per day, and of course wide range of websites available for your advertisement to appear. Right? And also you have a bit of control on which websites, which locations, right? And variety of ad formats are available: image, text, video, search results, right? Web level, phone levels, smartphone level. And of course, you can track your performance, how many page impressions, how many click-through rates. So a lot of flexibility. Those are provided built in by Google. Right. So then some disadvantages for the advisors. So these are possible questions. Okay. So the main disadvantage is most of the time you don't have control over exactly where to put your advertisement. If you want that control, you need to pay higher rate. So the normal by default, you don't have the control. Right? So Google will decide in which websites, which locations your advertisement is placed. But if you need that control, you need to pay higher price. Okay? So therefore, limited control. Right? Limited control over ad placement also. Sometimes your advertisement will be placed in places which are not very prominent. and again, sometimes you don't have any control. And there are plenty of people who do some frauds just to generate the revenue. They do the clicking by themselves, so by using tools. So then you lose your money, right? Actually, your advertisement is not viewed by humans, rather by bots and so on, and your money is wasted. Right. So now they have given you another activity, that is create AdSense account, because anyone can create AdSense or AdMob account. And if you have your own website, and see whether you can place advertisement for that, and see whether you receive those advertisement from AdSense. Of course, if you have good page impression, and see whether you can collect some money. Okay, but of course it must be reasonably good impressions, like at least about 1,000 page, 500 impressions per day. Otherwise, it's not going to work. Right. So they have given you the steps. Right. Anyone can do it. Anyone can do it. It's not. For example, if you are a YouTuber, you can connect your AdSense account to the YouTube as well. Okay. So that is why in Sri Lanka there are some YouTubers, they earn millions per month. Millions, right? More than 10, 1 million per month. Some people even several millions. I don't want to name those channels because right? So this is sort of practical thing you need to set up, maybe AdSense account for your website, so AdSense account for your YouTube. Or for YouTube, you need to have a certain amount of followers, certain amount of views. Then only you can enable advertising. Otherwise, advertisements will be there in your record YouTube content, but you don't get any revenue. So there's a minimum threshold. Once you go beyond that threshold, only you are eligible to. That is about 1,000 followers, and there's a certain amount of page views or the video views per month. Otherwise, your advertisement is again disabled. If views going down, that again you don't get the revenue. Right. So the next one is drop shipping. So drop shipping is basically you are doing business on behalf of another organization. It's like you are a franchise or agent. You get a commission for, right? It's not you have the stocks. It's not your product. It's not you have your stocks and take it and you are selling it. No. So you have virtual stocks. You have virtual products. Actually, those are products of others. But you may be using your own website or social media, and you just coordinate the sales. Right. So actually the product is going from the supplier to the customer. You don't involve in that, but uh, you just facilitate the transaction. So that is called drop shipping. Drop shipping. Okay. But again, there are limited opportunities. There are some people who are really good at marketing. They can get certain amount of revenue, but otherwise, this is very passive revenue. Okay, it's not a very easy task to do. Okay, uh, and also when more and more people have now got into the drop shipping, so that has created more and more competition as well. But if you are a famous person, YouTuber, social media influencer, so then you have a better chance of making reasonable amount of money using drop shipping as well, in addition to the revenue from your content creation. Okay. Right, advantages. So very low setup cost, because it is you are selling others products and services, and you don't have any risks because you don't have any product stocks, nothing, right? Right. You are not running your own business. A lot of flexibility, scalability, wide range of products, right? Because you just coordinate. Right? And also it's time efficient. You can do it on your own time, part time, right? It's not 100% you commit to that, okay? Or you are not setting up a business. So the disadvantages are obviously because you are doing business for some other third party, you just get a small commission, right? Low profit margins. And you have very limited control over the products, their quality, right? Because you are just doing it for the third party. So sometimes therefore you will be in trouble also, right? People criticizing you because they buy through your portal, but they are getting sometimes low quality product and services. And you heavily depends on the suppliers because suppliers you just coordinate it, right? And also the limited brand control. It's very difficult for you to build a brand, right? And also customer service challenges because there can be a lot of disputes because you are just the middleman. Sometimes there will be delays, right? Delivery time delays and under quality product delivered. So then you also face the pressure. So this is typical drop shopping scenario where you just facilitate selling of a product, but actually you don't have the stocks, you don't have the product, you just facilitate uh, on behalf of some other supplier. Okay. Actually, the websites like Darasi is also doing something like that. Some actually it's not their product. Maybe the product is from China, but they publish it like their product. But actually, the product when you make order only from China manufacturer send it to the Daras and then Daras send it to you. Okay. But sometimes if it is very popular product, they keep stocks in Sri Lanka as well. So again, you need to create account in those famous drop shopping platforms like eBay, Amazon. Right? You need to, this is a little bit, you need to do a research and find out what are the trends, what are the possible options, what kind of countries you are targeting, and so on. Okay. And again, you need to keep track of all your orders because it's you are the coordinator. Okay. Right. So the next one is affiliated marketing. Affiliated marketing means we are doing marketing on behalf of a particular business organization. Right? That is called affiliated marketing. Especially you can do this if you are a YouTuber, social media influencer, right? So you become sort of a brand ambassador for that particular organization or product. So that is called affiliated marketing. Right? You may promote their, especially this is famous for food industry. So there are plenty of food reviewers, plenty of people who review cosmetic products, right? And so on. Affiliated marketing. Maybe you do marketing program for hotel chain, right? Sometimes you do it in a very indirect manner, but indirectly you promote a particular product, or sometimes you directly promote a particular product or service. Okay? That is called affiliated marketing. Right. So these are some famous affiliated marketing like Amazon Associates, eBay Partner Networks, AliExpress. So those are international level. In Sri Lankan level also you can do affiliated marketing. So this is marketing, right? Not you are selling the product directly, but you do the marketing for them. And again, you get a passive income. You can do some target marketing, right? So a lot of flexibility is there, and you have less responsibility rather than drop shipping, right? But here more it's you are doing the marketing aspect. Right? Again, you may get commissions, right? Sometimes you will say you will in a YouTuber, you can say that okay, they can in the middle they can do a promotion and say if you use this particular uh, code when you do the order, you will get 10% discount and that kind of things. Okay. Right. So finally, cryptocurrency related uh, entrepreneur opportunities. So when it comes to cryptocurrency, it's very highly volatile area. So you must do it knowing what you are doing and you must make sure that you don't spend entire your revenue into your wealth into cryptocurrency. Rather, you invest a small amount of maybe your wealth to the cryptocurrency because these are very volatile, high risk area. So there are plenty of different cryptocurrencies also. Like the most popular is Bitcoins, right? Ethereum is there, right? And so on. And they are very volatile. Right? Always keep going up, down, and highly volatile. But in general, cryptocurrency seem to going up. Okay, so the value going up, so they are which is good thing. But at the same times, there are a lot of risk as well. Right. So these are the four major ways you can make revenue out of cryptocurrency. That is mining cryptocurrency, trading cryptocurrency, investing your money on cryptocurrency, and staking. So mining used to be very popular, but the way cryptocurrency algorithms work these days, the cryptocurrency mining has little bit lesser revenue. That is part of the algorithm actually. So cryptocurrency mining means as a cryptocurrency miner, your task is facilitate transactions, right? Or verify cryptocurrency transactions. It's a competition also. That is why you need high-end processors. So if you verify it before the other competitors, so you get a commission. So that is called cryptocurrency mining. So mining means you verify the transaction. There's a way to do that by generating random hash values. And if you are the first one to generate that hash value which fit into that transaction, so that means you have successfully mined that transaction and you get a small commission. And that commission is anyway, by the way, very small. Uh, but if you want to do it, you need to do it in a very organized commercial level. Okay. And also you need your power, computer processing power as well. Okay. Uh, so you need those equipments and everything if you are going to do it in a uh, competitive manner, right? So these are some special servers set up by people, organizations for cryptocurrency mining. Right? Cryptocurrency trading is basically you involved in buying and selling. It's something like forex marketing. So when the value goes down, you buy, and when value goes up, you sell it, and you get the difference is your profit. But it's again you need to be very sensitive to the economic aspects and so on because you must know exactly when the value goes down so that you can buy things, and when it goes to sort of a peak, you need to sell it. And of course, it doesn't mean guarantee that you are always correct. Especially the cryptocurrency market is very volatile, unlike the forex market. Okay? Because this is not bound to a country. Right? So that is cryptocurrency trading. Right? Cryptocurrency investing means you invest your money buying some cryptocurrencies and you wait long term so that your value of your investment goes up. That is when the value of a cryptocurrency goes up. So at the beginning, early days of it was a huge success because all of a sudden it went to millions. Right, for example, one Bitcoin worth it's worth when more than 10,000 times. Okay, so at that time people make a lot of revenues, but these days still it's getting growth, but little bit hectic, going up and down too much. Okay, these days. But anyway, some people still invest, but don't invest all your money on these kind of things, right? Just make sure you diversify uh, your wealth, okay, investments. Okay, right. So this is another little bit new approach, cryptocurrency staking. So this is not cryptocurrency mining. This is also sort of a proof of stake, but it's proof of stake rather than proof of transaction. Okay, proof of transaction. Right. So then cryptocurrency exchanges, it's a big investment. So only the big players, like it's something like a bank actually. It's a huge investors only do this cryptocurrency exchange. The most popular cryptocurrency exchange right now is Binance. So they basically help people to do their cryptocurrency transactions as a third party platform, and they get a small commission, right? So that users can have their wallets, buy, sell. So they facilitate cryptocurrency related transactions, and they get a commission. Okay, so that is called offer that you ordinary people can't do it, right? So very big investors, and there are only very few that such cryptocurrency exchanges like Binance, Coinbase, and so on. Okay, right, right. So that's it. So so you must have that big high level understanding about possible entrepreneurial opportunities like Fiverr, AdSense, and AdMob, cryptocurrency related, drop shipping, okay, and so on. Right. So tomorrow's session, we will do the past paper discussion and possibly finish it because now the syllabus is over. We want to finish subject by subject. So tomorrow session, I'm planning to do 3 years of past papers and finish this subject. So therefore, make sure you go through the slides again and attend the session so that we can finish it. Okay. Right. We'll stop at this point. Right. Thank you.